Hello once again folks, welcome along to another video from Gundog and Fly, and today I'm going to be tying one of my favourite generic dry flies. It's a little fly I've been using for many years to great success, and it's not that difficult to tie. It requires a few little skills. May not be a beginner's fly, but it's relatively easy. It's a fly, like I said, I've been using for many years, and it incorporates elements from a few different flies that I've incorporated together, and I find it works really well on spooky and finicky trout. So be sure to stay tuned. Now, the tying of this little generic olive pattern is not difficult for anyone who has any level of experience tying flies. You might struggle if you're a complete beginner, but even at that, it's not a very difficult fly to tie. So I'm using a size 16 dry fly hook here, as light as you can get. This is, I think, a Kamasan B400 or a B401 in size 16. And the tying thread I'm using here is a Unithread Olive 80. And I like to grab the thread nice and short and start just behind the eye. And when you grab the thread nice and short, it eliminates having to cut it with the scissors and just takes out one little job out of tying the fly. So I just lay down a bed of thread, and now I'm coming back up to roughly a third of the way back from the eye. Now this is a grizzled hen cape that's been dyed olive, and I'm going to create the wings from 2 hackle tips. Now the reason I'm using hen is hen feathers are wider than cock feathers, and they create a better wing. So I'm going to pull out 2 of these feathers, and I'm going to turn them back to back so that they curve away from each other, and that's the effect you get, the wing effect, if you like. And now I'm going to strip back some of the hackle fibre here, and that will give me something to tie in. So I'm going to put the feathers each side of the hook shank, bring my thread over loosely, grab it between my fingers, and then pull down, and that will trap those feathers. And now each turn I'm making is that direction, so that I don't disturb or upset those wings. Now I'm going to go to work on the wings. I'm going to lift them up vertically like this, tie a few tight turns in front of them, which will get them to stay vertical. Then I'm going to separate them, and I turn a thread from there and I turn a thread from there. That's what's known as figure of 8. I'm making a figure of 8 motion through between the wings, and that will separate them and tie them in securely. And now I'm trimming out any feather fibre from between them. So as you can see here, my wings are just nice. Okay, now back down to opposite where the barb is on this hook. You may not be using a barbed hook, but you'll know where to stop, just opposite where a barb might be or actually is. Now again, I'm going to use this grizzled hen cape for the tail. I'm just going to pull out maybe a half dozen fibres or so, and I'm going to measure them so that they're just slightly longer than the hook shank. When I have the correct measurement, all I do is swap hands, and that gives me the correct length, and a tie in that to create the tail. Now that tail is straight, if you like. If you want the tail to splay out, you just bring a turn of thread under it and pull again, and that will make them splay out like that, which will give you a little extra floatability. Now next thing is, as I've already pointed out, I use elements from different flies to create this fly, if you like. And one of the more important elements is the body colour, and I'm going to use grey dubbing. Hold on, I need to find my grey dubbing now. And here we are. Grey dubbing, which is used in quite a few flies, and in particular the Adams fly, which is one of the great generic olive patterns. So I'm going to use grey dubbing to create the body. Now, as I put on the dubbing, you'll notice that I'm tapering it. It's fine and thin here, and it gradually thickens to create the typical tapered profile of a fly. And then in touching terms, apply it. Now, if you want, you can stop at that, or you can bring the dubbing around to further separate the wings, like I've done just there. And now I drop the thread just in front of the wings. Now, something I harp on about a lot: if you want to tie good quality flies, you need to use good quality feathers. And these are top quality genetic hackles. You may scrimp and scrape on everything else, but in my view it's essential to have good quality hackle to tie good quality flies. And this here is a Cree, which is sort of grizzle and red together, if you like. Red, when I say red, I mean red game, or brown, sort of coachman brown. And grizzle, these Cree hackles have sort of the silver of the grizzle and the brown of the coachman at the same time. And here's one of those feathers. And I'm just going to strip a little fibre from that feather so it exposes the stalk, and that's what I'm going to tie in here just in front of the wings. Now hold the wings out of the way and tie down securely. Make sure it doesn't escape. Now just another tiny bit of dubbing. And where's that gone? Here it is. Little tiny bit of dubbing just to build up the thorax a little. Right, here we go. That creates the thorax, and just drop the thread just there. Now with my hackle, again holding the wings vertically, one turn behind and another turn just in front of the wings. Now 2 turns is more than enough. If you're using good quality hackles like these, you definitely won't need any more. There's a tendency to overdress flies, in particular if you go and see shop bought flies. They're vastly and hugely overdressed, and they don't work because they're not very convincing to the fish. A real insect is a very fine and delicate creature, and they're not very well represented by bushy flies. This fly here is relatively light and delicate and works very well on spunky and educated trout. So that's a whip finish. I'm just going to give it a second whip finish just for security. And that, folks, is essentially it. A generic olive that kind of represents everything in general and nothing in particular, but is a very, very convincing fly for trout in all sizes, from size 22 all the way to size 12 and above. And you can use it to tie Irish mayfly patterns as well. So that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I hope you enjoy tying it as well. So thanks very much for watching.